Okay, so we won't see each other?
Oh, well, you guys can still see because you're on Skype, but the stream,
Oh, okay, yeah.
yeah. You're getting to be a pro at this now, Brian, I assume. At least the online streaming stuff.
Yeah, it's uh, it's quite fun.
Yeah, did you guys look at Ecamm at all for DMSC?
No, we didn't.
Okay. Is it primarily done on PC? Your streaming or Macs?
Max. We
Okay.
do all streaming on Mac.
All
So we're
right.
using the OBS. We
Okay.
tried OBS Labs, and that's like the kind of dummier proof one, but it has a lot of more bugs. So OBS has been rock solid. So we used OBS for the boot camp. We had no issues, and so we're going to stick with OBS. So we're
Gotcha.
actually running four broadcast studios: one in Florida, one in New Jersey, one in Verona, Italy, one in Holland, and Mexico is being operated through us. So we're going to have four broadcast centers.
Cool.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
And we need to start taking notes from you then. We adopted Ecamm. I don't know how many weeks ago, how many shows ago that was, and it's been great for the control we can have over what gets put out, and cameras and who's showing what and where and that kind of thing. Uh, but Skype, is not as reliable or with. Well, let me rephrase that. Skype hasn't been as easy for some of our guests as Zoom has been.
That's correct. Skype, I think Skype has better quality, but it's a little dumpier.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Ecamm on October 27th is coming out of beta with their own uh, video conferencing component. So we'll see if we can maybe move away from Skype and use that instead. And I think through that you might be able to even see the live stream because it's not a
That'd be nice.
separate program.
Yep, that would be nice.
Yes. All right, 10 seconds, guys. Three, two. All right, and now we're fully in it. So Brian and Jeff, we've been
What's
listening to
going
you,
on?
and now we can see everybody.
Yeah, come on, we're ready for today. A
Yep,
fresh Friday.
and we even have the names in the right spot today. We're going pro now,
Come
Give you
on.
an A+ today, Alex.
right? All right. Well, happy Friday, all. We're here to talk about some more virtual conference stuff with Brian Pasch. And last time you were on, we were sort of recapping your first one.
Right?
Now that you're full pro, and probably the most experienced at this in our industry now. Um,
I,
I
I
would
would,
say so.
I think so. Yeah, we learned a lot, and this November for the AAA Summit, we're adding live call in, which we believe is so critical that people can feel connected. Like if they see a speaker or a panelist, they just pick up the phone and ask, and everyone will hear them. We're doing some gamification, some leaderboards based on people who engage to reward them. We're going to be giving out some cool prizes, but we're also going to be streaming live from four countries: Mexico, U.S., Italy, and Holland, with four languages. So Mexico's will be in Spanish, Italian workshops. So about five from Mexico, 10 workshops from Italy, 25 from Holland, which will be a mix of Dutch, German, and French, and of course about 50 from the U.S. So we're swinging a big bat to bring the best content to dealers.
Now, did you hire the United Nations translators for this?
It's funny. When I speak each year in Holland, we always go to Belgium, and in the back, because Belgium, those parts of Belgium will speak French, others will speak German. We actually have live translation booths, so people are in the audience with little headsets. It's kind of weird, but it's what happens.
Yeah, that sounds like the UN right there.
Yep.
And yeah, we've already got somebody saying, "I cannot wait."
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Plus, we want to innovate again. Some conferences are more engaging than others, and we realize, and here's the truth about it. It's tough to keep someone's attention during a virtual conference.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jeff, let's just say you want to see a session, but you're on your computer in your office, you got emails popping up, people are texting you, you're putting out fires, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't work when you're at work.
Exactly. So if you go to Napa, like our spring event, or if you go to Palm Beach for our fall event, I mean, you can kind of get away from not responding things right away. So what we wanted to do is add a little energy. So we're doing these face-offs. So we're asking companies to basically do their best presentation to convince a dealer to use their technology in 4 areas: digital retailing, websites, marketing, automation, and OTT, or digital video. And one thing that's really weird, I think that our automotive dealer community have been lulled into thinking that there's no innovations in websites anymore. It's kind of a weird thing, but I don't know, like everyone's focused on digital retailing and OTT. I see that, maybe better marketing strategies, but I think there's a lot of new things that are coming in websites. So basically, the conference will allow you to have this idea, just like Amazon. When you go to Amazon, right, you're auto logged in, it knows everything about you. This idea of filling out forms if you're a customer for anything just doesn't make any sense, right? Every piece of retail knows. So I think that the new platform from Team Velocity is pretty darn amazing.
Yeah, I sat through a demo with that.
Yeah, it just makes so much sense. Like, we've heard for years, like, personalization. It's so hard for a dealer to understand how personalization really benefits things. Like, well, they were on AutoTrader and they were looking at F-150, so when they come to your website, the F-150 will be the featured vehicle. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, but what does that do to overall conversion? You know what I mean? It's like it's a weird metric, but if somebody came to the website once and filled out a form, if they never had to do that again, or if they were a customer, it knew exactly what cars they had, I think that's the future. And if we're going to make retail easier, we have to stop with this treating every customer as if a stranger walked in.
Well, I think the struggles around that is the fact that the customer, purchases a car once every 3 to 5 years or longer. The average, how many times is a customer coming into the dealership for service anymore? Maybe twice a year.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
So I can see why there hasn't been a lot of effort in that, trying to personalize, because it's so far and few between.
Yeah, it's surely not.
It's not like Amazon. Who's not on Amazon almost once a day now? I know I am.
Totally.
I bought everything. I can't go on there anymore.
Right, you're done.
Yeah, I bought all of Amazon, or my wife did actually. But
yeah,
it makes sense to have that personalized experience for that, and I'm not saying it doesn't make sense for our industry as well, but I can see why that the reason for not having this much initiative behind that.
Right, and we're having a face-off with digital retailing, so we have 6 companies going head-to-head, and this is a hot topic because man, every week there seems to be a new company saying, I figured out how to sell cars online. I mean, it's like every week. So in these face-offs, we're giving each company 10 minutes to put their best pitch forward. We're going to see 6 in a row, and then we're going to allow dealers for 30 minutes to really grill the people and ask tough questions. And what we're thinking is that this kind of simulates going around the exhibit hall, getting a couple demos on a topic. So if you're looking for digital video, okay, let me go into the exhibit hall. Well, the exhibit hall is tough to do virtually, right? So this is a way in which we can kind of consolidate the shopping. Dealer invests an hour, he can look or she can look at 6 companies head to head and pick something that works.
You mentioned gamification. What are you doing around that?
Yeah, so obviously conferences are sponsored, and one of the benefits of conferences is that dealers go to learn about new products. So when people go into the virtual exhibit hall, they'll get points for downloading a case study, booking a demo, talking with the vendors. So during the day, the leaderboard will be there, and then each day we're giving out I don't know, it's either $500 or $1,000 for the top most engaged dealer, not vendor, dealer of the day. So each day, it's a 3-day event. If the people go and ask questions of our sponsors, they'll get points. And of course, the sponsors love that. I mean, a conference is really the marriage between dealers and the technology community. So we're trying to make it fun, because, going to a virtual conference sometimes misses that, belly-to-belly experience you have at breakfast or lunch or in the exhibit hall.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. And one thing that I enjoyed at the first conference you did, Brian, was the ability to actually chat with people. So
that's right.
You had 2 components in there. One was a speed dating piece where you go in for 30 minutes, and every 2 minutes you had a different person who was in front of you on the camera.
Right.
And then the other one is the chat was always open.
That's right. So we have a couple, again, trying to make that connection. So right in the morning, the first day, we have a half an hour to allow dealers to call in and say, I want to know about this. I want to know. So really almost like an open forum. And then we have dedicated networking where they go into the networking room, and it's every 3 minutes they get a new person. It's enough time to get to know the person, maybe exchange contact information. So that's fun. And then throughout each session, there's a running chat message, and through the whole conference. So if you really want to ask questions, almost like the DealerRefresh forums are so awesome because there's always people watching and willing to respond. Same thing at a conference. When you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, there, man, that's a great place to ask questions. So it's awesome.
Yeah, we enjoyed that quite a bit on a lot of different levels. So the networking is always key to a conference. And I have attended some virtual conferences since that didn't have a networking component whatsoever. And I left those feeling I didn't get a lot out of it. So.
Yeah. And listen, here's the issue. The virtual conference can never replace that feeling of running into friends in the hall or sitting down for breakfast. But there's so many things that are going on in our industry that we need to talk about. And so I think that we're going to do the best we can through the call-ins, through the interactions, through the contests that make it fun. But at the end of the day, here's what I think is going to happen. We're going to give people over 30 days to review the content. So I imagine over 3 days, dealers are going to take an hour or 2 to go watch their favorite live sessions. But then they're going to basically have a master class of 50 workshops, panels, keynotes that they can go back at any time. Like Jeff said, maybe they do it from home. Maybe they get their management team in a conference room and watch the face-offs. Let's pick a digital retailing. You know what I mean? So I think the benefit of a virtual conference is it has more usability. Instead of dealers in a live conference taking notes and they get home, Jeff, I'm sure you've done this. You take notes, then you get back, you get buried. 2 weeks later, you look at your notes and you can't even read, what you wrote. And then you have to communicate that to the management team on what you learned at the conference. This is so different. And I think we just have to wrap our head around that attending a virtual conference, if the content is great, is like getting a master class in automotive retail, almost like, a famous director has a master class, a famous chef has a master class. Well, I think the AAA Summit is going to be a master class in automotive retail, and that's a whole library of experts at their fingertips.
With 30 days of content being available to the attendees, I wonder if there's a neat way to provide a forum that somebody could just move right into for 30 days and be able to keep conversations alive or engage in new ones?
So I wonder, should we consider, and I don't know what the DealerRefresh platform is, could we take the video, because the presentation and the Q&A is recorded. Can we create posts in DealerRefresh that would allow people to watch it and then comment? I mean, can the platform hold or play a 2 gig file or 1 gig file?
We can hold it for sure. The question becomes, I think what you'd want is for it to be behind a login. So that,
if it was a DealerRefresh member, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, because DealerRefresh has the forum, it would be interesting to see. Maybe it's something like this, Alex. Maybe you and Jeff look at all the sessions and see what you think are the most engaging sessions. And maybe what we do is test bringing some of that content into DealerRefresh and then let the larger community digest it, instead of saying, let's move the whole conference. Maybe it's the face-offs, right? Because that will generate a tremendous amount of interest to say, hold on, these companies went head to head. I don't know. Jeff, what do you think?
I'll have to look into the admin panel. I know there's separate categories and separate threads that we could start. And then you could designate who is allowed to be part of those.
We could create a new category for that.
Like a double verification password or something like that. But you can definitely set up separate, what they call separate forms, where, again, you'd have to go into the back end and designate those people have access to that particular form. Because that's the biggest thing. I mean, you'd want people to have access to log in order to watch them, rather than just having the lurkers.
Yeah. So maybe what we could do is tell the attendees that we'll give them a login to DealerRefresh, right? If you bought a ticket for AAA and you want to have more discussion about this, okay. So let's try to work out those logistics, because at the end of the day, I believe the content and what we try to do is curate the best content, the best speakers, try to do the production quality as high as possible. So that would be cool for really the dealer community, because the next conference we're going to have is April, so that's a long time, and a lot of these topics are evergreen, right? As we're all thinking about changes in retail.
Yeah, I'll check into that.
Yeah, that definitely sounds doable.
Do you find, I know for myself, I've signed up for a few conferences virtual, and then I find myself, of course I'm too busy at work. I'll go back and watch the recorded ones. And then I never go back and watch the recorded ones.
Yeah. So,
I mean, do you find that happens a lot? And I'm wondering if there's anything, in order to encourage people. I mean, you don't want to say, hey, we're not going to record it. And it sounds like, from your experience, you've maybe 30 days is sort of like the sweet spot. You have access to it for 30 days. After that, you're out.
We look at it in a couple things. Like for DMSC, we had, I don't know, over 600 people registered, and at any one day, maybe we had 300 people live in the platform, right? Okay, so those are just some realistic numbers, right? So what we saw is people came back, but then it started to dwindle, right? So number one, by putting a timeline, it gets people to absorb, and obviously our goal is that the material is relevant to this time period. The second thing is this thing of how do you get people to remind? So in our platform, we know who attended which sessions.
Okay.
So we can follow up with an email. Hey, if you have any questions for the speaker, here's the contacts, right? Maybe to help facilitate. And we can see the people who didn't watch. And so we could say, hey, by the way, based on votes, here were the top 5, sessions, and you weren't in them, and they can go back in. So we will do 30 days of marketing, maybe one email a week to remind people to get back in. But as you know, as soon as like DMSC stopped, there was a couple people say, hey, can we have access? And we just, from a support standpoint, we just said, no, it was 30 days. Oh, it was so good. I've been so busy. So, I don't know. One of the things I was thinking, Jeff, what do you think about this, is that since the conference is November and December is the busiest month, should we just leave the content up until the end of January to give people more time? Like, I'm just worried that December is like such a busy month. Yeah. Do you think it would make a difference to dealers that they could actually have it for 60 days because December is kind of a crunch month?
I think potentially, yeah. Yeah, because you are right. December's always a crazy month. Knowing that they're going to have, another 30 days might be a nice benefit.
It's just a longer time to procrastinate.
True.
No, this is why I'm asking, because, honestly, a lot of the virtual conference stuff is trial and error. Lighting.
Well, you're not going to know until you give them another 30 days and, log the traffic.
Exactly. Well, that's for sure. And we're also hoping that people from, not hoping, we know people from the European community love to watch what's going on in the U.S. For some of our sponsors, that's a huge win, because I'll give you an example. Call Trip is really popular in Europe. It started here, but my friend Paul DeVries is a reseller, and he's crushing it in Holland. But that connection with Call Trip came from Paul visiting, the DMSC conference many years ago. So there are going to be some OEMs and some partnerships, because folks from Europe are going to see the presentations, and SpinCar is in Europe, for example. So how do these connections happen? Typically, people from Europe come in and look at new products, and they try to bring them. So I'm hoping one of the other benefits to our sponsors is that they could pick up some new markets through the vendor community.
What's the competition like in some of the other countries, such as SpinCar? I mean, are there companies over there that are pretty cutting edge and doing the same thing, or they just can walk in there and sort of just gobble up market share?
Well, what's really interesting, I was having a talk with Joe Gillespie, the owner of DealerRefresh, and I'd introduced him to some folks from Holland, and they loved his websites, and they did a pilot of small, like 20 or 30 dealers. Okay. What's very interesting is what dealers pay for websites here in the U.S. is like 3 or 4 times what dealers pay in Europe. So like being in the website business, the margins are horrible. Like you and I would never write in on a piece of paper and say, oh, let's go in the website business in Europe. They're like $400 or $500, like that's it. So people pay on classifieds, like an Auto Trader and stuff and all that stuff. $300-400 a month, and they think that's expensive. I said, well, you should come here in the U.S. It's like $3,000 or $4,000 a month. So the problem in Europe is that dealers don't pay but a fraction of what dealers pay here. So it's very hard. But if you're a technology product, yes. But if you're a service-based product, it's almost impossible. So Call-Drip is a technology. It's a software. It's a telephony product. Okay, the margins on US are here, maybe the margins, but it's still a margin. That if you have a product that needs a lot of support, it's very tough to go from here to there. So that's why you don't see a lot of US products over there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking of Europe, in recent news, our good friend Ling is retiring.
Oh yeah, shout out to Ling.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, we need to have her on again before she calls it quits on the car business.
And what's the reason for the retirement?
I think some of her advertising might have gotten her in a little bit of trouble.
I think she's just tired of it.
Yeah. So
she's a very straightforward person.
Yeah.
We got to get her back on.
Well, listen, automotive retail in general is challenging right now. We have inventory issues for sure. But, dealers have gone through a very, very profitable 3-4 months. And I'm hearing in general, some slowing down, like October is not blowing out the door like, June, July, August was.
Volume-wise, no.
Yeah. The profitability per unit is still high. One of the things that I will just say to our Refresh listeners here is that really need for these last 2 months of the year to consider about increasing budget. I don't know if you guys saw Snapchat's earnings came out, blew out the numbers, like a 400% blowout. And here's what they said. Advertisers in the general retail are realizing that Snapchat and their Snap Messenger is the preferred messaging tool of young people. So there's a lot of money going into social, which I believe next week Facebook's earnings are going to be a blowout success, like crazy blowout success. What's happening? A lot of money is coming out of traditional media, going into social, and we're telling all our clients for the next to the end of the year, they need to at least increase their Facebook budgets 10%, even sometimes 20% to get the same reach, because between the political ads and all the retailers waking up to social media, you can't expect the same results. It's almost, Alex, you remember the early days of Google AdWords. We were buying keywords 20 cents, 25 cents, 50 cents.
Those were the days.
Right now, the average keyword cost is $4 to $5 for a good one. All of our clients are just being advised that with the political pressures and with the retail, almost going to say renaissance of believing in social media advertising, dealers are going to have to increase their budgets.
So basically, you're saying
just to get the same performance.
The same performance or the net shopping engagement. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's a little surprising. Well, maybe this did catch on faster, but you're right. So Google AdWords, definitely when people first started getting into pay-per-click and SEM, throw all the definitions of the same thing out there. But when PPC came along, the early adopters were rewarded with low budgets and high conversion, and that was definitely the case with Facebook. Right up until really recently. And I don't know what it is for dealers. As a vendor, we've experienced a change in the amount of conversion that happens off of Facebook. And once you told me that, it was like, oh, so we've passed that part where the early adopters were rewarded, and now it's getting into the masses' hands because television advertising isn't nearly as effective. So your big TV advertisers are now shifting over in that gigantic budget, which is exactly what happened with pay-per-click. It went from little we could spend $1,000 on 11 franchises at Checkered Flag and have a very effective pay-per-click campaign for every month. And then it was like you had to spend $20,000 to $30,000 per franchise to get half of what it was. So
yeah, and there's one other thing that dealers have missed. I would say that my searches rarely see dealers running Google local ads, and if their listeners aren't familiar with it, when you do a search like maybe Ford dealers near Dallas, you get some SEM text ads, and then you normally get a three listings. And if you go click on the maps thing, obviously you get the long list. If you do a search for, and anybody who's watching today can just do it right now, do personal injury attorney or divorce attorney, and you'll see that the Google My Business listing has ad. It's a promoted listing. Very few dealers know about this or implement it, but the Google local ads are actually becoming the most amazing and lower cost alternative to local advertising. And that means that they can be the first in the 3-pack on a search page and the first in a mapped list with a promoted post. Now, that, of course, means that your Google My Business listing should have a good number of reviews. This is a breakthrough for service. So we're seeing anywhere from a per conversion metric, half the price of SEM, the Google local ads. So
how does the dealership get on Google local ads? Where do you admin that from?
From the Google Ads campaign manager, but there's some like criteria, for it. It basically it doesn't start like a normal campaign. It has kind of a ramp up period because they kind of look at the people who engage in the ad, how many people come into store. The good news is dealers have good foot traffic, but it is such a weird thing that you don't see. I mean, think about it. Do 20 searches right now and say, do I see any dealers with the ad on their Google My Business listing? And it's hard to find. So it's completely untapped. But the high volume keyword, like divorce attorney and personal injury attorney, you'll see it in every city in America. So honestly, we've been rolling it out slowly because Google doesn't give you many answers on how these local ad campaigns work, and you don't always see them consistently. But the results we're getting for our dealers is amazing. So if a dealer has great reviews, I don't know, Jeff, have you seen? I saw dealers. I was just doing a dealer in Texas, and 8,000 reviews. I mean, like.
That's a lot.
Imagine being number one in Texas in a competitive market, top of the 3-pack, top of the map pack, and have 8,000 reviews. I mean, where are they going to click on first? You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It used to be an SEO thing. Now they can effectively trump SEO with Google local ads.
Yeah.
Oh, so actually, Ryan Everson. Oh, sorry, Jeff.
Have you written or shared any articles around that we could throw over on DealerRefresh?
I haven't because we've been using it really as a good strategy for our clients. But when I'm talking, I really hold back anything. I haven't written too much about it, also because it's a relatively new phenomenon to have enough data. But at the AAA Summit, I'm doing a local SEO tune-up workshop. Mm-hmm. I'm taking a dealer, and thankfully they're allowing me, successful dealer, but their local SEO was all jacked up. They didn't even know it. And we're going to reveal it. And then one of the suggestions is, once you fix X, Y, and Z, here's one of the things you can do with it. And I'll show some of the Google local campaigns. But I was just talking to Tom Kerr. Some of you know him, right? CK Advertising. Now he's with Affinitive. And we were on a joint call with a large dealer group. And he concurred with me that he saw about a 60% decrease in cost per conversion through Google local compared to normal SEM. And that's what we're seeing. And it makes complete sense when your GMB in the 3-pack or map pack is number one, and you're in a competitive market. So I don't have to tell you how important that is.
Let me say, hold on a second, Jeff. There's a comment from Ryan Everson, who's tuning in from Mexico. Pretty cool, Ryan.
Or something.
But he is saying, and
Is he
I'll
on
throw
vacation?
it. Well, maybe he's on his honeymoon. Yeah. But he's saying that Google local ads are amazing. The only roadblock to dealers is that it does require a YouTube video to launch a local ad campaign.
Oh, wow. Wonder why.
No.
Is there stipulations around the video, or as long as you have a video?
I'm not aware of that stipulation. Ryan's super smart, and obviously my team is running these. So I didn't ask that question, but I will definitely follow up. And maybe what I can do, Jeff, is tune up an article for the DealerRefresh community on that. And
Sure.
Ryan has collaborated on our conferences before, so he's awesome. So Ryan, maybe you and I could do a joint article for DealerRefresh, and I can share some of our campaign data, you as well. We could really make it a good joint effort.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Yes.
Brian, you always, back in the day, I'm sure you still are, you were sort of known as Mr. SEO. What's going on in the organic SEO front?
Well, I'll give you two observations. Just because I'm still hands-on, believe it or not, I was just building some pages for Vera Cadillac just before. So two major observations. Number one, I noticed that Google My Business is referencing in the map in local business searches content on the website. Now let me give you an example. In Boca Raton, we have a client in our Lo Caliente agency, which is non-automotive. It's called Lo Caliente. We have the blowout parlor. And if you do like Brazilian wax or Brazilian blowout or some Brazilian blowout, Boca Raton, it shows their Google My Business listing, and in red it says their website mentions Brazilian blowout.
Oh, wow.
In the map section it says their website mentions. Well, of course, I'm a student in this game, so I was like, holy shit, this makes complete sense, because there's no Brazilian blowout. You can be a hair salon or a hairdresser or something. So number one thing I'm learning and we're implementing for our clients is there should be a dedicated page for each of the 10 business categories in your GMB that you pick. Dedicated static page optimized on that keyword on your website. So
in that category that you choose, you get what, up to
10 for sales, 10 for service, 10 for parts.
What was that, 2 weeks ago? And just reviewing all the GMB fields, and he was talking about, so whatever you're choosing within those 10 categories, maybe have a page on the website.
Dedicated static. Here's an example. GM dealers, Ford dealers, Chrysler dealers obviously have diesel engines. Okay, so show me a dealership website that has a diesel engine repair page. You'll very rarely ever see that, but it's a high margin repair. One of the categories for those dealers is diesel engine repair, which I recommend they pick. Auto air conditioning service is a category for the service listing. In hot weather, Texas, Florida, I mean, people are always looking for their auto air. Show me a dealership website that has a page on auto air conditioning service. It's very rarely not there, are very rarely found. So what I'm finding is I think Google in the GMBs for validating how often they show, one of these things is the categories relevant? And I think they're going to the website, scanning, and on this particular
looking for those keywords.
Parlor, okay, so that's number one. Number
that's
two,
good though. That's a
Yeah, you got me thinking about my own experience trying to find a diesel mechanic for one of my pickup trucks.
That's right.
Yeah.
And here's the second observation, and this is one of the faster growing areas for PCG Digital, our agency, is fixed ops SEO. So you go pick any Buick GMC dealer, pick any Chevrolet site, and pick any Chrysler site. They typically have 6 pages for service. General service page, service appointment page, parts page, a tires page, maybe some other, a warranty page. It is amazing that the default Syncro template and even some of the default Chrysler templates, because dealers have been calling us up and saying, hey, business is great, but I think it's time for us to focus on fixed ops. And I'm like, okay, let's have a local strategy. George Nenny, who you had on the other day, right? So dedicated GMB for sales, service, and parts. Okay, great. Merchandising, great. But dealers should have about 20 static, meaning the fixed pages for fixed ops for things like those 10 business categories plus some of the other things. And it's amazing. Dealers run a multi-million-dollar business, service being one of the more profitable departments, and they just have never invested in the content. When you get GMB done right and add the content pages, then you have landing pages for Facebook, you have landing pages for Google, but more importantly, Jeff asked the question, you start to show up locally. Why? If dealers realize that in their local community, the average independent service center has less than 300 reviews. Like diesel engine repairs, typically under 100. The highest ones will be your Discount Tire or Firestone, but most of the independents are under 100 reviews. Well, the average dealer probably does 1,000 customer pay ROs a month. If they got 10%, just 10% of them to write a Google review on their GMB service, that's 100 reviews a month. In 3 months, they'd be the #1 rated auto repair shop. So there's the GMB side. Now add your content. What do you have? Relevance. And then the magic on top of it, Jeff, it's not SEO. Then you start running Google local ads for fixed ops. But you don't promote your sales listing. You promote your service listing. And then when people are just doing wheel alignment, tire shop, battery shop, air conditioning repair, diesel engine repair, your service listing shows with all your service products, all your custom services. So dealers who are looking to invest in a competent fixed ops strategy, definitely should reach out to me. We're having a lot of fun, and I'm having a lot of fun, where I started 15 years ago with SEO.
Yeah. Can I throw another value out on what you're talking about here? So, and this is totally off topic of SEO, but if you're in the sales department, you are paid by the sales department, and you're listening to what Brian's saying and thinking, oh, that service, I got no budget for that. I don't even want to take the time to mess with that crap. Those guys are on the other side of the store, screw them. Whatever it is that's going through your head right now.
Right.
That might be a thought that have gone through mine before. But there's so many people who still service vehicles that didn't buy a car from the sales department last time because somebody down the street or whatever might have had a salesperson that did a better job, told a better story, whatever it was, and got their business. And here's an opportunity to drive some more sales business out of the service department by showing that you really have a stellar service department, which leads them to believe that you also have a very stellar sales department, and they'll give you a shot again.
And the dealers that have a great sales in service lane process. I always wonder, like, someone comes in, they never bought from you. That should be an instant process. To welcome them, show them around the showroom. Maybe, hey, would you like to see some of the new models? I know you didn't buy from us. Let me just show you how we do business. Maybe you demonstrate some of the new cool tools for shopping. But you're absolutely right. It is just odd. Now, 15 years ago, I started my, Twitter handle is Automotive SEO. I was thinking of changing it. Well, I have Brian Pasch as well.
Can't do it now.
No, it's just like, how come 15 years later, dealership websites have 6 pages for service? Knowing that content is really important for local relevance. I think now that, in my last my book that I published last November on GMB, like unlocking that as a tool for local search, and now with the new content strategy for fixed ops, I think that's been a huge missing piece.
Another thing just occurred to me, Brian. A number of our community members are experiencing buyouts right now. So they're internet managers, marketing directors, e-commerce directors, and they're finding themselves under new ownership all of a sudden. And what you just put out there, it's like, that's gold. You take that strategy to a new owner, you definitely earned yourself a 30-day job extension at the very least.
And listen, you get through the holidays. Basically, Alice just gave you the winning recipe to take this content and get at least the holiday bonus.
For sure.
Yeah, the $50 shopping gift card and the ham, yes.
Yes.
Brian, we build out a lot of those service pages, but we do not include them in our main navigation. But of course, they are in the sitemap. Is there currently any benefit in making sure that they are in the main navigation, or
they should be? And there's some clever ways to do it. Obviously, some of the website companies have like a mega menu concept, which kind of blows it out, makes it a little easier for multiple pages. I always like in a shorter service menu, right? A menu choice like popular service packages or popular vehicle maintenance packages, just something popular or, routine maintenance. That's just one item on the tree, so it's not like this. And that is the submenu that has the 15 pages. I want it to be in the main navigation. I think I'm not an expert in this, but at one time I remember DealerRefresh, Dave Page did a study that the mega menus, when that first came out, lifted search relevance for those internal pages because they were part of the main nav as compared to just in the sitemap. And I don't know if Google sees that as, well, look, on every page of the website, there's a link to this page because of the header, footer, structure. So I would think that they would need to be part of the main nav.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And you can just nest them so it doesn't make your nav look, crazy.
Yep.
There's a lot of gold in there.
Well, it's fun, it's fun educating and sometimes though it's weird, this last book was number 9. Very few dealers actually acknowledge or ask questions. And sometimes, and you probably see this, is like, you're dedicated to doing Refresh Fridays, you're dedicated to the forums, and you say, man, there's 18,000 dealers, there's probably a dozen people in each dealership that could benefit from all this information. Let's do the math. Right? And you say, well, hold on, that should be 200,000 people that go to NADA or whatever, and it's like, well, it's 20,000.
Yeah.
So, part of this frustration that I have is that you wonder at the end of your career, were you like a pebble in a small pond, a pebble in the ocean? And sometimes, you go and you really want to help and you really want to change, but there's just absolutely no reason 15 years later why most dealers have 6 service pages and they have really no content, right? One's the service form, it's iframed. One's the tire page, that's iframe. God forbid you go to a GM site, that the accessories page takes them right off the website. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, it can be discouraging. That's just like
it's all those wonderful pages that the OEM throws at us. Tells us we got to have up.
Well, it's also a cultural issue. Like even prior to OEM mandated websites and the content that needed to be on there, there's always been this line in the sand between service and sales, especially like used car department and the service department, where it's funny. We used to have to remind the some of our service managers on occasion, hey, your biggest client is the used car manager, and he's paying full retail. So. Yep. It's 100% customer pay, man. But there is a two-way line in the sand that is cultural. So the real question, I think, comes down to how can we help dealers break down this cultural barrier that exists in the dealership? And if we can figure that out, then the marketing budget can move over to service a little bit or get expanded a little more, so it's a bigger budget, and sales keeps as much as it does, and service gets more attention. And that's what the website companies are waiting for. They would build it. Solutions for service would come. They would come fast if there was budget for the deal that dealers wanted to spend on their service departments for these things.
Yeah, but the only thing dealerships that I see really spend money on is really just an online scheduler.
Yeah, and there are a couple companies, I don't know if they're active on DealerRefresh, that kind of sell turnkey landing pages for service with built-in coupons, and some web platforms do that for free better than others. My general problem is most of the dealers' service specials are one long page with 20 coupons, like a GM site would, for example. And if you use a third party that has a plug-in, a little piece of code that generates those pages, if you cancel them, all those pages go away, right? So it's kind of like, Dealer Teamwork has dynamic, amazing, landing pages, but it's inserted or injected code, right? Other companies have injected code. And I like that for specials, right? Because you can't do specials manually. But for the core content, I really think it should be content that the dealer owns, and then use the specialty tech for better specials pages or interactive coupons. But it's sometimes the dealers get confused how many static pages are on their website. And this is a technical thing, but your audience is technical. I'm going to tell you a realization I had. If you do the site command on any website, that's SITE : and then the URL, the homepage, it says how many pages are indexed. The average dealer is over 1,000 pages. And dealers are like, oh man, I got 1,000 pages, some dealers, 2,000, some dealers, 3,000. Why would 15 pages do anything? And I'd say, well, first of all, that's a false friend. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, you do not have 2,000 index pages. And they're like, that's what Google says. I said, you have about 20 static pages on your website, and all of those other pages are variations of the SRP. As the Google bot goes through and picks trucks and cars and price, all of those combinations generate a searchable page. Mm-hmm. And when dealers realize they typically have less than 20 static pages on their website, and I tell them that they should have 15 to 20 pages for service, then the light bulb goes on. Most dealers think 15 or 20 pages will not move the needle. And I'm telling them it will, because you only have 20 dedicated pages. Another revelation, because it's not just fixed ops today, dealers should own evergreen make model pages. Most dealerships SRPs, which they pick models, menu systems that pick models go right to an SRP. Mm-hmm. And that is an evergreen. It changes every day based on the inventory. But if you're a Toyota dealer or you're a Nissan dealer, do you have a dedicated page for Nissan Altima and Nissan Rogue? Most dealers say nope, don't have it.
Really?
They just don't have it. They don't have a static page. Mm-hmm. And it was at one time, I think Dealer.com had something called model galleries.
Model-specific landing pages.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I believe the juice is not making them year, make, and model, making them make and model, because the make model searches is absolutely very popular. And just refresh once a year the photos. But the general text, is a placeholder. These are some SEO observations that if dealers been using the site command thinking that they had thousands of pages, it's like a turnstile. It goes like this.
Well, those model-specific pages also work well as landing pages. And we use DealerOn, have been for a long time. And one of the features that they have is the fact that you can place your inventory on any page. So you can build out a nice model-specific landing page, and at the very bottom, you can have, and you can mix your new and used cars together. So you can just go by model-specific, whether it's new or used.
Dealer Inspire's got a great they've got a way you can fold the inventory into a section of a landing page. So you can say,
nice.
I just want to show Toyota Camrys, or I want to show used Toyota Camrys, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And in this section, and new ones at the top, or whatever. Yeah, that's
what's interesting when you look at how many dealers use that feature to create an evergreen, just like, priority Toyota / models / Toyota Camry, just very simple Toyota Camry, and that's optimized for a Toyota Camry Alexandria or whatever, and a good meaningful couple paragraphs of text, and then this dynamic inventory that never goes away. You ask them, show me those pages. I would say 9 out of 10 dealers say, I don't have that.
Wow. I thought more dealerships did.
Shoot.
I don't see it.
You can do it with Frickin' Tech, Jeff. If you wanted to build out inventory pages that were framed in.
True. Yeah.
I could tell you a little more about that later. But yeah. So also there is, I do want to throw a shout out to one of our sponsors who does do this, but they do it exclusively for Ford dealers. That's Dealer Prints. And that's a pretty neat one because that content is written by a true automotive journalist who goes to the actual Ford events, drives the cars. He's a nationally syndicated. I think he's got 8 million followers.
I think you introduced me to him. We had a conversation last year. What a nice guy.
Yeah, Larry Prince.
Yes.
That's why it's Dealer Prince. But and he actually, now that you're down in Florida, you guys are probably pretty close there.
Yeah, no, he was phenomenal. And I think any dealer who especially was looking to engage in social media more for their dealership really needs to have compelling content and storytelling capabilities. And, a guy like Larry, is an authority on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Funny, I was talking to him the other day. I asked him, how many times have you driven the Bronco already, you asshole? And then he turned around and said, yeah, you don't want to know what I'm driving right now.
Look at that.
So, yeah, he's definitely in there, got some cool stuff. But
Brian, in the very beginning of the conversation today, you mentioned dealership websites and innovation around that. And you sort of touched on more of a communication piece that's maybe growing and innovating within the industry. Is there anything else that you're seeing on a dealership website level that's sort of, that basically is innovating or something that's really stuck out to you?
Yeah. I'm not going to take sole credit, but a little over 2 years ago, I was at DMSC, and I had asked Tim Cox and Joe Chura to do a test of eliminating the number of buttons on a VDP and moving those CTAs to conversations and not forms. So that was over 2 years ago. And the big breakthroughs, I think, are this general concept of will we staff our virtual showroom? And the idea is there's absolutely no reason today with technology that during business hours when someone's on your website, and if you have a CTA that says unlock price, there's absolutely no reason why you should pop up a form. You can still be MAP compliant and collect that information and have a conversation. And so I think that in the dealers I work with directly, and data from Joe Chura and data from Tim Cox and data from Gubagoo now is that anywhere from 50 to 100% increase in sales conversations, people you're talking to, identifiable people, instead of chasing them in the BDC based on a lead form that says no one's here to help you right now, to actually engaging them. And so there are some bold new designs that are, following this pattern of during normal business hours, unless it's a finance form or a complicated trade form, we are not telling consumers that no one's there to help them. It will require a philosophical and staffing change, but dealers have always said, I want more leads. And I say, well, the reason why you want more leads is because you're really crappy at chasing them. Like, okay, let's stop chasing people and serve them when they're on our website. And the dealers that are doing that are in agreement. So I think the next evolution, I'm calling them formless websites. Obviously, folks like Team Velocity can even do it even better because they know who the person is, right? So when they click on a button, they already know, like, hey, Jim, it's good to have you back. Are you interested in this car? But it takes training to have conversations. So crappy chat platforms can't do it. You need the ability to kind of have an alert, almost like how Call Drip pushes out a call when someone's on the website and says unlock price. Really should go out to first any free sales associate, and in the stores that are doing it and they get hooked on it, the sales associates want those because they're really hot leads. Yeah.
I was designing, it was probably about 8 years ago. I was just putting together some ideas around VDP, and I was just stumbled across it the other day. But actually, I had designed it where the chat box was actually there on the VDP. So it was like, so you would hit ask question, and it wouldn't bring up chat. It was right there on the page. Yeah. And then I had it set up where whatever questions were asked before that would archive into an FAQ or Q&A area.
You were ahead of your time.
Well, I didn't implement it, so. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Do you think, because we talked about GMB, we talked about Google local ads, and of course there's always that discussion around GMB turning into a pay-to-play. I wonder if maybe that's where the Google local ads will make their way into and being able to manage those through the GMB area.
Well, it would make sense for non-automotive. One of the problems, you're a small business, you don't have the budget, right, to hire an ad agency. So I think that the software as a service or advertising, by the way, the big cable companies are now building kind of SaaS solutions to build your own pick your media buys. They're doing that for the agencies. They're trying to eliminate the middleman, margin compression. So I think software as service, Google came out with a Google certified or whatever for certain professions, which was a little pay, but that was to guarantee their work, So the initial Google certified were people like roofers and painters and plumbers, to almost give like that housekeeping seal of approval. That's the first, thing where they charge the business a fee to be Google certified. And for the customer and for the vendor, there were some benefits. Google does not like to share anything with anybody. You know what I mean? They pretty much are paranoid with all that. But with the importance of the Google My Business local listing and the dominance that plays in local search discovery when someone's in, pretty much an intent to buy mode, having it be free and uncontrolled and as sloppy as it is doesn't sound like a great business model. So, and the support for Google My Business is horrible.
Non-existent.
It's the most frustrating thing. I've said this before, and I mean this. If a dealer was told you have to pay $300 a month and you have direct support for Google My Business, I think every dealer I know would sign up. So it's not a matter of will people pay. It's why don't they want to pay? I don't know if it impinges on some, again, monopolistic practice or, they're already in the sights of the Department of Justice, but it just doesn't make sense. It's so important to dealers. It's the number one source of traffic that generates lead forms and phone calls. The number one source by far, like by a factor of 10. And there's no support for the product. You can your Google My Business listing, you could go months with it. Something doesn't make sense that a paid service would easily be embraced and it would be a revenue gen. I don't know why.
Who knows?
Well, one thing we do know is the AAA Summit It's the Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit. Is when and how much, Brian?
Yeah, so dealer passes $395. If you're a member of NADA Academy, currently going to NADA Academy, it's only $95. We want to invest in the next generation of automotive professionals. Cool. So we are super excited about that. And what we'll do, Alex, is throw out a Refresh Friday special. Okay? Because only people who see this will have, I will give anybody, today's Friday, right?
Yes.
Anybody today, tomorrow, and Sunday, over the next 3 days, if they buy a ticket, we'll do a buy one, get one free for someone else in the dealership. And the only way you'll get it is if you email me with say, I bought a ticket either today, which is 23rd, 24th, or 25th. I saw you on DealerRefresh, and here's the other person I want you to add. So if you buy a ticket today, Saturday or Sunday, that's it.
Wow.
We have not done a 2-for-1 ever for AAS, but we're going to do it for DealerRefresh. If you want to lock in great content, and I think we may even leave the content up until the end of January, we want to give DealerRefresh listeners a special bonus. If you bought a ticket earlier, don't be looking for a two. This is a special emotional appeal. You send me an email, Brian@brianpasch.com. Very simple.
Cool.
Brian@brianpasch.com. Definitely appreciate that. That's great.
And we'll talk about
refreshers.
We'll talk about a way we can get the content from the summit onto DealerRefresh in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think the face-offs really fit perfectly into the refresh. It's like come to refresh, and see the face-offs. I mean, there's tons of great content, but I think because people come to your platform oftentimes to talk about products, get recommendations, it'd be very interesting in these face-offs where these companies are literally showcasing side by side. It could be hyper accelerated engagement.
I just like the idea in general. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I do
right?
too. Yep.
So do you have any other conferences coming up? Because you're sort of the king of conferences.
No, April, we are going back to Napa Live if it isn't burnt to the ground. And I love Napa and I love wine, and a number of the wineries that we visited in previous years. Last year, not this spring, but previous, we went to this castle, kind of Italian villa. I think it was like Castello Amorosa or something like that, burnt down, and people had a lot of great photos there. So next April, the last weekend in April, we'll be back in Napa. So we're really excited about that. And hopefully what we'll do going forward is do hybrid, have it live, and also sell tickets for the simulcast. And then we can expand our reach for the dealers who want to learn.
Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, why not?
Yep.
Why not?
Hopefully we can get out there and give elbow and fist bumps.
Yes, I'm going to give out hugs. I don't care. By next time,
all right, even better.
I'm hugging everyone. I'm not living in fear. Sorry, not going to do it.
All right, we're shaking hands.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Till next week.
Thank you so much, Brian.
All right. Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone who's watching today. It's been a pleasure. Thanks.
Yep.